Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show today. We are going to have a great show, but before we get to the show, I need to discuss a few things with my peeps, all of us progressives out here. There are some issues that we really have to discuss. Very, very important issues, especially with immigration and that and the new call motto, if you know what I'm talking about. There seems to be a huge debate right now about whether we should abolish ICE. There's this big debate about abolish ICE, and those people who don't want to abolish ICE, there's something wrong with them and they are prejudiced or whatever it is. For those who don't agree that we should be taking on, that we should be morphing the issue into going ahead and abolish ICE. I think we ought as progressives, very, very smart in how we handle things. And in fact, part of this show, the blog of the week, the one that's in quarantine until it gets to Daily Coast on Sunday, it is important, very important, that we heed these types of warnings. They are so very important. So what I want to tell you folks today is that we're going to talk about that. But before we get directly to that, I want to remind you folks that this is a progressive show. It's a progressive show that needs your assistance and needs your help, needs you to make sure that we can continue doing what we're doing. We're going all over the country. We also bring progressives in. So please do remember to go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right, patreon.com/politics done right. Very, very important that we go there and support all our progressive programs. We do the same with dailycoast.com, coffeepartyusa.com, democraticunderground.com, opednews.com, and of course kpft.org, Pacifica Network. We make sure that we fund as well with our small donations, these guys. So what I'm asking you is to go ahead and please become members of politicsdoneright.com. Okay, now let's go to the program, not to the program yet, but what I want to really talk to you about. I want to talk to you about the ICE, the abolish ICE concept. There are some people who believe we should be abolishing ICE and we should march and talk about abolishing ICE. Here's what I try to tell progressives. And by the way, I don't mind that at all. What I don't want to see, and what I'm starting to see that is very dangerous, or we're starting to reach a point where many progressives, if they don't, if one does not bite the bullet and say, I am absolutely for abolishing ICE as something that we're going to do or something that we're going to fight for or whatever, that somehow you're not a good progressive. I want to warn us all of us on all sides, and this is very important. We cannot allow either the immigration issue proper or our disagreements as far as whether we should abolish ICE, whether we should continue with just supporting the evil or supporting those who are being held by this evil empire against their will, separating kids. We have to stop arguing about those. We all share the same values. We do not want the border to be in such a manner that people are mistreated. We don't want the border in a manner where families are separated. We do not want any of that. That is something we all share. Every progressive believes that. Whether abolishing ICE is one issue or not, we can debate that, but it should not have us turn against each other because some want to talk about the abolishment of ICE. And why am I saying that? Why did I specifically bring this out? Specifically because at this point in time, we have Beto O'Rourke, who apparently won't come out. Beto O'Rourke, the potential senator, the person who is running for Senate here to replace Ted Cruz. We want him to win. And they are asking him questions, many progressives, including progressives who said they're definitely voting for him, but they want to hold his feet to the fire. My question is, holding one's feet to the fire doesn't mean that they have to agree that the solution is exactly the solution that you want if what you're looking for is moving into the same direction. So for those of you who say you're holding Beto O'Rourke's feet to the fire until he says, I want the abolishment of ICE, that is not the answer. I am not looking for Beto O'Rourke to tell me he wants ICE abolished. When Beto O'Rourke gets in Congress, if ICE is to be abolished, those of us who believe ICE is to be abolished, given that we all share the same values, including Beto O'Rourke, we all fight like hell to make him do it. But right now, separating as far as who is a better progressive because of, there are certain litmus tests. I'm not going to argue about that. There are certain litmus tests as a progressive. You want these values, but here are the issues at hand. We do not split. We do not fight. We do not argue. We do not split up in such a manner that it effectively hurts us in the long run, especially on an issue we all agree on. And I'm not, we all agree what we need to do about immigration. We may not all agree that, and for that reason, let me just go to the subject that I hold dear, and that is healthcare. It's for that same reason that when I interviewed Beto O'Rourke and he said he didn't give me a definite answer on Medicaid or Medicare for all, single payer Medicare for all, the reason exactly why I gave Beto a pass, in other words, I said, well, you know what? Let's see. Is because subsequently the answer he said is, I think single payer Medicare for all is actually the best thing. But if somebody comes with something else that seemed to work better, hey, I am not going to force myself into an issue that inhibits me from moving forward. And that is a legitimate answer. Of course, we know the political answer is to be scared of Medicare for all. It is, for a lot of Democrats, weak Democrats, it is a scary thing. Now, running in Texas and giving that type of an answer is an answer that I am willing to take. Likewise, I am not going to ask Beto O'Rourke to wear a banner that says abolish ICE. Personally, let me tell you where I am. I want ICE abolished, but I also want open borders. Many of you don't. Many of you who want ICE abolished don't want open borders. Does that make you less of a progressive? Because I believe open borders, given especially how this country was formed, is really what we need to have. Open borders with controls, of course, that we must know everybody that is in here. And there has to be some kind of controls made on that. So, look, we have the same values in the aggregate. Let's not lose a war because we create unnecessary battles. Let's not lose a war because we create unnecessary battles. And I think it is important that we get there. I saw a whole lot of discussions on Facebook with, folks calling others racist because they don't support ICE, and some black folk calling white folk, you just don't get it. Some white folks either saying, I do get it or whatever, or sitting back or getting off the line. We got to stop that crap. The same problems that afflict America is the same problems that afflict the Democratic and the Republican Party. We have good people in both parties. We have racists in both parties. We have people that try to exert their privileges in all parties. It's not, so let's play the smart game and let's win 2018, and let's win 2018 together. Okay, now that I get now that I can get off of my soapbox, the title of the show today is Progressives Could Lose the 2018 Election on the Immigration Issue. And I want you guys to listen to this, right? Because it's a reality. And even in this ICE discussion, where some of the people who are not supporting ICE are called, for some who are not supporting ICE, they call them racist. And for others who are not supporting ICE, they want to call them, supporting that we have the moniker abolish ICE or whatever the moniker is. They want to call those people of color who think that way, maybe some sort of Uncle Tom or something like that. Well, forget that. The reality is we have choices. We can think of different strategies. Do not look at somebody else's strategies and just attack it. We must win 2018, and we must stick together to win 2018. Anyhow, title, Progressives Could Lose to the 2018 Election on the Immigration Issue. Progressives' second title, meaning the subtitle, Progressives Must Pound the Immigration Issue on Moral Grounds Without Getting Tunnel Vision on what is afflicting many to little fanfare from us being progressives. This is very, very important because in as much as the heart of the country is with us, with the way we are supporting the immigrants on the border, that support, when speaking about self, can dwindle in a minute. I want you guys to realize that. And I forgot I had a whole lot of stuff going on before I was able to cue the video. But I'm going to try to cue the video in real time of a discussion from a last show that I had with a black progressive. But here's the entry to the show. Many progressives are beating the pavement throughout the southern border states, fighting for those asylum seekers attempting to cross the border. This is very important on the moral level. However, it is important that progressives do not, I repeat, do not allow the right. You cannot allow the right to, oh, I'm running out of battery. Forgot to charge up. Okay, let's see. I hope I got a charger here. I think I have a charger. Bear with me, my dear friends. I do have a charger. All right. Okay. Do not allow the right to segue that concern into a failure of progressives to address other issues that afflict poor and middle class Americans. We cannot do that. Let's not make the mistake and do that, my dear friends. Let's not make the mistake and do that. Now, one cannot allow the right to get an upper hand on the messaging. We must, I repeat, we must mitigate that. We must ensure that doesn't happen. Before I go to the blog of the week, I want to ask all of you to please go ahead and share this on your wall. Share this on your Facebook wall. Share this on your Facebook page. Share this everywhere. It is imperative if we're to get the message out. And specifically, I want to get the message out to my progressive brothers and sisters. Let's not fight on this issue. Let's make sure that there are a whole lot of point of views as progressives we entertain, and not because somebody has another point of view does that make them any one of the ists that you want to call them. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's go ahead and get busy with it. But folks, before I get busy, do you know what time it is? But do you really know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay. The weekly blog post is titled, and I ask you again to share this on your sites, share this on your pages, share this on your walls, Twitter, everywhere else. The title of the blog post is Immigration could be a fatal Achilles heel for progressives in 2018. This is quarantined until let's see. This one is quarantined until I think until done from Daily Kos sometime after Daily Kos prints it. But you get to hear it. Here we go. I always think through many degrees of indirection. One must do that to ensure that they are not succumbing to groupthink or a false belief of being right on any particular issue or occurrence. Immigration is an issue that, while progressives seem to be winning the hearts and minds of many, may be wind pie and a mirage. It may be wind pie and a mirage. And I explain. As an immigrant, and folks, I'm an immigrant, okay? Came here legally, but I'm an immigrant. I share all the things that you see of those people coming over the border. I feel all of their pains. I know what they're going through, all of that. I have gone through the prejudice as a immigrant with a strong accent in the past, coming over here, and the treatment that was received by everyone. Everyone. This country, well, let me finish. Let me continue. As an immigrant, I understand the prejudice firsthand of Americans, especially in times of perceived strife. What is interesting is that discrimination does not always come from those one usually describes as the bastions of prejudice and racism. This is important here. Before going to the University of Texas, I did 1 year at Blinn College in Brenham, Texas, because they gave this foreigner a scholarship to play in the marching band and stage bands. As an engineering student, on a music scholarship. I worked my butt off, dumped the scholarship, and headed to Austin. Ironically, my first sting of prejudice in America came from my black brothers and sisters. As I tried to find a home away from home, I tried like hell to assimilate. They treated me like the outsider, the constant outsider. Hell, I couldn't even get a date. During the first semester, it was the white kids who wanted to hang out with me. Of course, by Thanksgiving, the superficiality was evident. Luckily, the Latinos from Central America and South America, we all hung together. The reason I put that little paragraph in there is to just illustrate one thing. The perceptions of different people is not necessarily hue-based, race-based, or anything. It can be culture-based. It can be a whole lot of things based on a whole lot of things. Like I said, I had two experiences when I just dropped into the country, right? That was back in the late 70s, early 80s. Like I said, my biggest, I came here, all the Latinos hung out, but I'm also a black Latino, and I saw we were going to the dorms and so forth, and I tried to hang out at some of the dorms as well. And the truth of the matter is, yeah, there was prejudice, and I saw it on both sides, right? For the ones who kind of was intrigued with the accent and this black dude that speaks differently, the white kids, they wanted to be around, and it was kind of cool and all of that. But, that prejudice was still there because, you know what? Hey, it was Thanksgiving, and you know what? It's the Latinos out there that just kind of had to hum because nobody was taking you home. But I bring that in here because I want folks to realize these issues are not just black and white or whatever. You have to see things from a correct perspective. Now, why the synopsis mentioned above? We tend to look at events singly or one-dimensionally. The immigration issue is fraught with dangers for the left. Many progressives frame the immigration issue as one of the white Trumpist racists who hate brown people or people of color. They see Trump as stoking that carnal fear exhibited by his followers, and in turn uses it to intensify his support and with his voter base. While that may be true for many Trump supporters, it is not the case for all, nor is the Trump supporter the only xenophobes or anti-immigrant people. A few days ago, I was making that point on Politics Done Right, one of these shows here. I wanted to point out the dangers on the manner in which we address Trump's xenophobic evil in general, but specifically his cruel deeds at the border. In the process of making the argument on the episode of the show, a caller, a black man from New Orleans, called in. I found his words not only sincere, but one that rarely gets addressed by progressives as they make the immigration case. Many in the black community falsely believe that immigrants entering their communities with businesses received some stipend from the government just because of their immigration time. I cannot mention the number of times I have heard that in many black communities around the country. Of course, the sad truth is that racism indirectly drives these immigrants to those communities. But that is beyond the scope of this article. Here's a little bit more. This black man from New Orleans has seen immigrants come into his community and extract without making any attempts of being a part of their fabric. Moreover, through the prisms of their eyes, they see people from a foreign land and adapt many of the behaviors or from a foreign land that adapt many of the behaviors of their racist compatriots. Why then would they have any heightened further to assist? Why then would they have any heightened further to assist the immigration process of anyone? Why would they want to assist if that is their experience? I'm not saying it's all. I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying it is an experience that they have. And I'm going to try to play that video because you'll hear what he said and how I responded to that. But anyhow, but the immigration issue and how it plays out is ultimately deeper. That family, irrespective of race or ethnic background, who is suffering in Appalachia or the middle of any part of urban or rural America, may justifiably ask similar questions, and they do. That angst can quickly turn any favorable poll toward immigrants rapidly. And it does not solely affect the unskilled. See, a lot of people think, all right, immigration and what you're scared of with this immigration thing is all these unskilled workers coming in, which means it lowers the wages for all these unskilled workers we have in the United States. False. You see, we got to understand how these things work, man. All these immigrants that are coming over here are only coming over here because there are people willing to hire them and they know it. And the reason we maintain the immigration status quo is because American big business want the immigration status quo because they can talk about immigration and use it as an issue, but at the same time they want to hire those people to minimize their cost, because if they're illegal or not illegal, but if they're undocumented, not necessarily only pay them less, but they don't have to pay their 7 point something percent in Social Security. They don't have to do a whole lot of these things. And sometimes for the ones who are working with interest in papers that have Social Security numbers, do remember they pay those Social Securities and we get it. They don't. So we just take their extra 7 something percent away from them, or 15% if you want to be accurate. But for those who think it's only about unskilled workers, it is not. Attacking HB1 visas can promptly bring professionals into the anti-immigration fold as well. Easily. Oh, the folks on the West Coast, what do they call it? Silicon Valley wants a whole lot of HB1 visas, and Silicon Valley has a tendency to be very progressive. Okay. So all Trump has to come out and do is mess with the H1 visas and have all those progressives come out and fight for them. And then it's yet another attack to tell professionals, you see, they don't even care about you. They want to bring in all those cheap engineers. You know, you're not going to get $120,000 or $150,000 a year when they can pay that guy $50,000 or $60,000 a year. So this is an issue that is ripe to turn. And what Donald Trump did, in as much as he's losing the battle right now, he could likely win the war because it can change on a dime. When people start to feel their personal economy directly affected by something, it can change on a dime. And that is something that we progressives need to be cognizant of and not have silly fights like, should we get rid of ICE or not? ICE ain't going anywhere until we get a progressive president and a progressive Congress and a progressive Senate. That's when ICE is going to go. And that is when we really, really should be in the streets with all those big signs about get rid of ICE. You have to be strategic. We want to protect and do the moral thing with our immigrants. But going forward further, I want you to listen to this. If progressives do not modify our narrative and also learn to walk and chew gum at the same time in a cohesive manner, then the immigration poll numbers can turn on a dime. And once again, the moral argument would succumb to fear. Important here. Once again, the moral argument would succumb to fear. Fear is a hell of a lot more powerful than one's inner morality. That has been proven over and over and over again. And Republicans know how to do it very, very well. Folks, if you're just joining us, please remember, do share this on your wall. Go ahead and share this on your program and make sure other people listen to this. We cannot make the same mistakes over and over again. Continuing. I kind of lost my place here. Okay. I think progressives can inoculate ourselves, but it will require us accepting where we have erred and then change tactics quickly. We support equality, equal access to success, and pay it forward policies, meaning tuition-free college, subsidized childcare, debt relief, etc. But the people that most need these policies generally have no clue that we have solutions because we have not been in their faces for a long time. They see us fighting battles, but many times not in a manner that they believe will help them directly. That leaves the door open for the liars, the Trumps, and all the other folks that are lying. Some folks say, I thought you didn't call names, Egberto. Calling somebody a liar is not a name because liar is an adjective that accurately describes those that I'm speaking about. It is just like calling them, they're progressives, they're conservatives. They could be progressives, truth tellers. They could be progressives that are, not doing something right. They can be conservatives that are patently ignorant. Or we can actually give descriptions without having to be uncivil. And those descriptions that I did were not uncivil. They were explained and they're backed up by data. Continuing. The same enthusiasm we have in the downtowns of America, the suburbs, the exurbs, and other places, we must have in Appalachia, the barrios, and the ghettos. Yes, many times they won't open their warmth and hearts to us as they will be suspicious when a bunch of progressives come into a neighborhood that usually we never attend or go to, for whatever reason that is. Wouldn't you expect folks to be suspicious? But given that it is a time when we have yet to have done that, it is a pain. It's the pain of potential rejection. It's a pain of reprimand, or the pain of all these things because of past failures that we should just take, accept, and move forward into these communities so that they can see us working for them. And not have somebody demagogue what we support just for the sake of, because of what we've shown a particular interest in. These are so very important concepts that we have to adhere to. We cannot be pinned down and say, the only people they care about are those brown people on the borders. Whatever happened, and I'm actually going to cue that thing up and play that because it's important for you to listen to what this black guy had to say. So anyway, yes, many times they won't open their hearts and warmth to us. They will be suspicious. After all, where have we been? I've been working with many indivisible groups in my area. They are doing great work. Unfortunately, like many other mainstream progressive groups, they look nothing like America, nor the people most in need of the policies they are fighting for, nor do they enter those communities with any frequency. And that is the thing we have to overcome. That is the thing we have to overcome. We have to be everywhere, because there are more of us. But why aren't many of us voting? Because we are not everywhere. We just take certain people's votes for granted. We simply take certain people's votes for granted. We need to be in the barrios, ghettos, and Appalachia. And I always say that. And I mean that. We have to be in those places. They can sneer at you. They can call you that crazy liberal, progressive, whatever the hell they want to call you. But you be there. When you stand up there enough times and prove that you're not just there to get your little gold star for the day, you did your good progressive thing. When you do that, you start to build a family. You start to build a rapport. You start to build respect. You start to build the bona fides. And that is what a lot of times we don't have, the bona fides. And that is where a charlatan like El Señor Trump can come into the fold and swipe everything from under you. And that is what we have to stop and ensure that never, ever, ever happens. Anyhow, at the same time, we are fighting like hell for our immigrant brothers and sisters on the border. We must visibly enter those distressed communities and let them know we are fighting for them too. It is not a zero-sum gain. Most importantly, we must make it clear that it is not them or us. We need immigrants for sustainable growth, and our economy is more than able to support it all if we did not have a class robbing us all and using division as the medium to do so. And that's the blog of the week. I hope we take heed of that because it is so very important that we do that. A lot of folks don't quite understand, why it is that we should do all these things. Look, it is easy to how should I say this? It is easy to be righteous. It is always easy to be righteous. It is hard. It is hard to be righteous doing the right thing. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to see if I'm going to look for that video that I actually cut it out, and I think I can find it, and I think I can pull it up. And what I'm going to do is play for, I think it's only about 7 minutes or 8 minutes or somewhere in that area. But I want to play that because I think the young man had some interesting points that I found it. Great. I found it. Let's hope it plays just fine. Bear with me as I set her up, because if we get this, if we really get this, then what happens, my friends, is it is easy then to go ahead and say, you know what? That is what we need to talk about. And that is what I'm going to do here. So without further ado, I'm going to play that discussion with that young man a few days ago. And it's very important. Listen to this.
Yes, this is New Orleans here. I was listening to you, and then when I heard the part about somewhat accusing African Americans of being anti-immigrant, then I felt I had to chime in.
Sure, go ahead, my friend.
I think that, of course, nobody endorses the policy of separating children coming in from south of the border. Number two, many immigrants are fleeing from the situations that are horrible from the country. However, I, as an African American, do not feel that particular issue is a pressing issue for the interests of African Americans. Right now, in black neighborhoods all across the country, we have immigrant groups who are set up comfortably in enterprises where they are openly blocking African Americans out from participating in their own market. We can go on with the beauty supply market controlled and monopolized by the Koreans. We can go on in cases like in New Orleans, where your gas stations and convenience stores are owned by Palestinians, and where the Palestinian men sexually harass black females that they only hire in their stores. We can go on with Koreans harassing African Americans in their stores, even assaulting their employees. We can go on and on about how these immigrants come in and look for a position of hierarchy to also step on African American people. And I do think it is misguided and naive for African Americans' energy to be directed to help other people when their own issues have not fully been addressed or adequately addressed or even solved.
What is your name, sir?
There was a play. My name is Darren. There was a play called The River Niger, and that play was made into a movie. And there was a scene. There's a scene in the play where one of the actors said, everybody has a piece of my nigger toe but me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as if that the African American population, the native African American population, not only is looked upon as a resource to exploit by white people, but by other groups that come in here as well.
Okay, I'm.
And there's a question. There's a question I like to ask.
Yes.
Rhetorically,
Mm-hmm.
if there's only enough food to feed only your children and somebody else's child,
Mm-hmm.
whose child would you feed?
Your own.
And we know what the other groups would choose. They'll feed their children first. But we are being directed as African Americans to feed other people's children while our children starve.
Darren, I am so happy that you are the caller who called in, because I think you've successfully made the point that I wanted to make, and that is, right now the anti-immigrant sentiment is would make one believe that it's a racist white issue. But you proved what I was attempting to say in this stuff, and that is that it's not only the white community that is anti-immigrant in a lot of issues, but even the black community is that way as well. And the reason I wanted to bring it out is that you don't see this on TV. And what you did very well is explain some of the reasons why the black community is anti-immigrant, and your reasons are different than the reasons for the white nationalists. But it's a very important reason itself. So here's what I have to say to you, first of all. I'm black, okay? I'm also Latino. I am also Caribbean. I'm all those things. All right, so I share a certain kind of commonality among a whole bunch of folk. And here's what I want to tell you. When you're overseas, right, the way black folk are marketed in a lot of places. I went to China in the 80s, and until folks saw my name on a piece of software that they bought from the United States from a big company, I was just the image of what they believe black people from the United States are. Just another Michael Jordan or something, even though I went there as an engineer. So the Koreans and all these people that come over to and take over your community, there are two reasons for that, of course. One is, do they actually many times think less of you? Yes. A lot of times they think less of you because of what they've learned, because of what our racist movies and all these other things have gone over to these countries and taught them. In fact, I am a black Caribbean person from Panama, and I can tell you one thing: there are a lot of things that we as Caribbeans, we as Latinos, have heard about black Americans as well. It is up to those who have some intellect to mitigate those lies and those misconceptions, right? That is one of the reasons I have this show. Now, if we get honest with the grievances that you just put out there, which are in fact real, yes, there are immigrants that go into your communities and not only extract from the community, not only, you talk about some beauty salons, you talk about, there are certain, I mean, I can go into South Park, Texas right now, South Park, Houston, and see the same thing. Now, it is our responsibility, I'm talking about black folk now, to do exactly what you just did. Articulate that and find a solution for that. That does not have to happen in a vacuum for the evil that we're doing on the border. You said something that is very important. You said, if there is X amount of food and it's your kid and somebody else's kid, who do you feed first? And normally it would be your kid. What I try to tell people out here is that the issue here isn't about there being enough food to feed us all. The issue here is about segmenting us into groups, thinking that we have to pit each other against one another. And in doing so, the people that are ripping us all off, because I tell you something, brother, you live in Louisiana. You're in New Orleans. And I don't know your social status. I don't know your financial status or anything like that. But I can tell you something. There are some parts of this Houston here, ghetto, that is, the poorest of the poorest blacks, the poorest of the poorest whites, and the poorest of the poorest Latinos live in. And the one thing they share in common is they don't have a pot to do what in. That applies to Appalachia and all these places. Poor don't know poor don't know poor. We have to get off. We have two problems to solve. We have to first educate people that these differences are designed not by us being different in hue, colors, or whatever, but it is designed to make sure that we continue to fight each other. Let me tell you something. Suppose we taught that Korean some real lessons, that racist Korean how things really are, and how it's working. And suddenly he really became a part of the community. And suddenly we created places for that black business person who really want to have a black business in that area. And those, if we worked on those issues, we won't have to work on the hue issue, the xenophobia issue, the racism issue. Okay, I hope you kind of tied that into something that I was saying, and that is, if you take a look at what progressives are doing right now, is yes, we are into that moral issue with the immigration issue, which is a must. Yes, we must do that, but we also can't fool ourselves as to who is driving the immigration issue. Not only who's driving it, but who are the people that have some reservations as far as the progressives really taking on the immigration issue and much more. We have to be strategic in what we do. That young man from New Orleans, he represents a point of view that a lot of other Democrats have as well in his community, in many other communities. You forget about that. You don't keep your eye on the ball. And what happens then is we have one other issue where it helps us snatch victory from, or snatch defeat from victory. Okay, let me... Hi, Michael Rudnin, or regular. Hi, Michael Davis. Hi, let's see, Elaine Kim's. Hey, Elaine, how you doing? Great to have you here. Folks, this is a call-in show. Please feel free to give us a call at 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Do you agree or not? Remember, you don't have to agree with me. The idea here is to have an open dialogue, and not only that, for others to hear that open dialogue, because when others hear that open dialogue, people can make up their minds, or people can modify how they believe, or kind of add some finishing touches on what they believe, improve on what they believe. That's what I do. When I hear, I have a lot of callers that come in and kind of modify the way that I do things, the ideas that I have, give it some perspective, improved perspective, if you will. That is what we do. That is what communication is all about. So if you will, give us a call. 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. If you're on Facebook Live, you can see that number on the screen. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, in the top of that screen, you should be able to see the number as well. Give us a call or drop us a line and let us know what you think. Okay, let's. Michael Rudnin says, that's surely what Republicans are counting on. The real question being, will morality win out over partisan politics? Look, morality, partisan politics, I don't know if that's a question I would ask, is will morality win over fear? And I think fear trumps morality. And I think Trump knows that. He's in office because fear and hate trumps morality. It's sad to say that. So what we have to do is get rid of one of those legs. We can say we can't do much about certain things. We can't do much about somebody just being patently prejudiced, racist, or whatever. We can't do much about that in the short term. We can talk to folks and try to teach them about how silly that disease is. But because I do remember what I explained to you in several shows back, that many people who were very, very, very prejudiced, very, very racist voted for Obama. And they said so. I told you the story about that person calling out, tell that I'm voting for the N-word. We are voting, our family is voting for the N-word. Because fear, they had reached that point within their personal economy where they thought it was important then to support something for themselves. Put away their prejudiced views, put away quite a few things, and it's something that's going to support them. Same thing's going to happen here with immigration, or the same thing could happen here with immigration. And that is what we have to be cognizant of. And that is, this issue can turn on a dime. The video I just showed you about that guy in New Orleans, Trump, believe it or not, can win a substantial number of those people, not going on TV and sounding crazy, but direct marketing to those people in those neighborhoods, in those areas, just to make a difference. And one of the things that we apparently cannot see is we are so into what we're doing that sometimes we don't understand. We have to walk and chew gum at the same time. We have to be out there not only talking immigration. Immigration is important, it's moral, it's a big issue right now, but we can talk more than one issue right now. We can even merge these subjects together. We can merge the problems with immigration along with the problems that's going on in the ghettos, barrios, and Appalachia. We can merge those issues so that they know we're talking about them and not just only those people that are not Americans trying to get here onto the border. And as you know, you may be very, very smart in knowing how all these things function, but we have to go to those people who are feeling the pain, who don't have necessarily the clairvoyance in their thinking as you do right now. And that is what we have to do as progressives if we are going to get the job done. Okay. Michael says, as a progressive, I only have one litmus test. Do you take big money, corporate money, donations or not? I agree with that. But for me, another litmus test is you have to support the rights of women. You have to support the minority rights that cannot be. I mean, those are what I call our Bill of Rights. There should be a progressive Bill of Rights. There are some things that are inalienable. When we spoke about, get rid of ICE or not, that isn't something that we need to fight about. Some people want to get rid of ICE. Some people don't. Some people think it is not the right discussion right now. In my case, I want to get rid of ICE. I don't think it adds anything to the discussion right now because, one, it's not going to happen. Two, it doesn't activate too many. I don't see how it activates enough people versus what can be done with it on a 30-second or 15-second commercial. And what we ought to be looking for right now is winning. I can go and I can explain Medicare for all single payer in a manner that even a right-winger says, you know what? My cousin has cancer and they went bankrupt. I can explain that. And I can explain that by saying, and we have examples of this stuff working. What I can't explain, in as much as I believe in it, is that getting rid of ICE cannot be something that used to say, those guys don't give a darn about security. They want to get rid of ICE. So, we have to be smart in the things that we dig our heels into. We have to be smart in the things that we dig our heels into. And so far, in my humble opinion, not all the times are we. Now, it seems like for some reason we lost our Blog Talk Radio. So what I'm going to do is you're going to hear a little phone stuff for a minute here to get our connection back to Blog Talk Radio. Well, it seems like it's going to take a little while. It seems like something happened on their network. Every so often that occurs, but I would like to get you guys.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio.
In.
Please enter your host PIN. When finished, press the pound key.
And that is what we're going to do right now.
To start your show now, press 1. To hear.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
Okay, so we're back in. The phones are working again. Please give us a call at 646-716-5812. You know what? We can actually take 50 calls at a time. That's a plan we work with, 50 calls at a time. So I'd love to have more calls coming in and giving your piece if you don't agree. Whether you agree or not, I'd love to hear your point of view. Anyway, Michael Davis says, we must not as this part of why we, or rather, we must not as this is part of why we lose. And I think he's speaking about some of the issues that I spoke to before. Michael says, as far as borders, we need to let a lot more immigrants and refugees in, but I also want a vetting process to clear path to citizenship. Not quite open borders, and that's fine. When when I say I am for open borders, people take it like, oh, you want just people to flood into the. No, when I say that, I means everybody has the option to come, and if for some reason, if we reach to the point where there are too many wanting to come, then we can accept. Then we stop. But here's the truth: you don't have more people coming here than we can accept right now, and that's a fact, right? People who think the world is just in an urge to jump into the United States. No, that is not the case. I mean, you don't see a whole lot of French and Canadians and Brazilians and all these folks in mass trying to come here. They love where they're at. It's people who are looking for a better life because they are unable to have an acceptable, pleasant life where they are that you'd see come over. And usually the folks that come over are folks that are sort of a cut above because they're the ones who are risk takers and whatever. That's the reason you see that immigrants who come over here generally have a lot of businesses and generally do things that are a bit more, what should I say? They take more chances than the native born because already they're here. They came here. They took a chance and left everything that they knew. Okay, continuing. Let's see. Exactly. Long held this idea. ICE arrests immigrants. This is from Michael. ICE arrests immigrants as they pick up children from schools, from churches, from hospitals. This whole racist papers, please, reminds me of Nazi Germany. You know what? It should remind you of that because that's what we're doing. And you take a look at these pictures and these videos that are going across the world. That is exactly what we look like. So everything that we speak about becomes moot because when they see us on TV, when they see what we're doing to human beings here, many folks turn back and say, wait a minute, is that what the United States really is? That's not what we've been taught about the United States. We thought about the United States of that benevolent people, that great people. But what's happening now is Trump has turned it on its heel. Trump has adapted what's occurring not only in Germany, in England to some extent with the right-wing side of these different parties. And they're hurting, the Western world in the long run are hurting themselves. First of all, they're not growing at sustainable rates, which means they need people. And if people think that they're hostile to them, in the long run when all the corruption, or not all the corruption, but all the bad things that are happening in the Middle East, the bad things that are happening in Central America, and all these things eventually burn themselves out, who do you think is going to want to come to the country that they think is, not a whole lot better when it comes to how they're treated as human beings? We better start looking out. We better start looking out as far as what we look like and who we look like, that what we're promoting out there. Because it's no longer a closed world where you can hide things. Don't you think those pictures of how those kids are being treated in these prisons and these cages here in America gonna come out? Somebody's gonna go in there with a cell phone camera, and they're gonna show some pretty bad things. And just like, I don't know if you remember with the Iran thing when they were torturing the people that we got on pictures and videos, those will be out. Dr. Michio Kaku talks about H-1B visas, would recommend a watch for. Okay, I'll take a look at that, Mr. Rudnin, about H-1 visas. Okay, we have, if someone lies repeatedly and unapologetically, making stuff up with sources, yes, we have to call them liars. That's been one of our biggest mistakes for a long time, and that is we don't call these people out, and in the process, many times their lies have become virtual realities. Folks, if you want to give us a call at 646-716-5812. Of course, this podcast will go up shortly after podcast and vlogcast will go up shortly after the show for you to share as well. So again, give us a call before I go into my last ask. Give us a call at 646-716-5812. too. Do you agree with what we're saying? Do you believe in what we're saying? Etc., etc., etc. Again, before I close out the show and go for my last ask, I want to get back onto the subject because some folks may not have heard this as they come in to both to Blog Talk Radio and Facebook Live and Coffee Party Network. We must not fight within the progressive sphere, within the democratic sphere. We must not fight on issues that, first of all, we know what our values are, and for the most part, they're congruent. We know what these values are. We cannot fight on these issues and create animosity among us on issues that really we shouldn't. So I have an ask here as far as I hear a lot of people about the abolish ICE thing. The abolish ICE is a great moniker for some. Some don't see the value in doing that right now. We can all do our thing. For those of you who believe in abolish ICE, go out with your signs with abolish ICE, whatever. For those who believe in abolish ICE but think it's not the appropriate time, just don't do it. And don't criticize those who are with their signs about abolishing ICE. It's a free country, and if they want ICE abolished, so be it. Don't give them a hard time for standing up for abolish ICE. For those who are asking Beto O'Rourke and other politicians that they must somehow definitely come on board and say abolish ICE, that is not the smart thing, in my humble opinion, to do. And the reason why is simple. We can have several ways to skin a cat. And for those who believe it, go fight for it. For those who think other methods are the best, give them the latitude to do so. We must. That is the party that we are. Hello, Jacqueline Lunger. Welcome aboard. That is a party that we are. I have 1 minute to take calls if somebody wants to call in the next minute. 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Please do remember to share this program. And since I see no calls, I'm going to go into the last part of the show, the last 2 minutes, where I ask you to support Politics Done Right. This is Politics Done Right, a progressive program. We do quite a bit. We interview, we bring the message from progressives, many of them who weren't able to get their messages aired on any substantial network or on enough blog sites and etc. We do that. We bring them in sometimes live in the studio. Sometimes we bring them in over even over their cell phones, over the cameras on their PCs, and we put it out there. You know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, we interviewed her at Netroots 2017. We had an interview, and we blasted that thing all over the place on Facebook, over the place on our blog sites, egbertowillies.com, politicsdoneright.com. So before anybody knew about this justice candidate, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, we had her. And there are many other, the candidate that won in Indiana, I don't remember her name right now, we had her on. So that is what we do. We also go into these different rallies throughout the country. We also write blogs every single day trying to put some message across, progressive message, to make sure we keep the pumps primed. What do I mean by that? We have to have the progressive message in the blogosphere hourly, daily. We have to have our message out there, and we have to continue to create progressive content out there. Why? Why do I write several blogs a day? Because I love writing? Yes, I do love writing. I do love exploring things, but why do I write all these things a day? Because we have to have a constant volume of progressive information within the internet sphere, so that when people start looking things up, they don't only see the paid stuff that the right wing has paid folks to write and put out there, that we also have volume. So when somebody look up single payer healthcare, they don't only get to a website that says single payer healthcare is bad, that somehow they get to one of our Politics Done Right websites. We have a website called singlepayerhealthcarenow.com. That website comes up as well with valid information to feed them. That is why we constantly write and write and write and put out blogs every day and emails and all those things. Because we have to keep the pump primed. We have to make sure that people get the progressive message. It's not about you write a great article and it's over. Everything is good. No. You have to keep the message out. You have to repeat the message in many different forms over and over again in the blogosphere to ensure that people see it, to ensure that the search engines pick it up. The search engine likes new information. The search engine wants deterministic information. And that's what Politics Done Right, egbertowillies.com, that is what we do. Day in, day out. And then we have this program to do, again, bring progressive people on to go ahead and cover stories. Day in, day out. And that's why we need your support. We have to support those that are helping us move our message, those that are helping us do what has to be done. So again, if you want to be a part of the solution, if you want to be a part of this project, I ask you to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. We have very, very small subscriptions because what we want are thousands. We want thousands of subscriptions so that we know that you're out there and we are there to support you. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. You have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day. And you know what? I'm going to say now. I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES, that is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.